So this is what 171 hours of Satisfactory looks like. And real quick, I'll show you main save. 171 hours. So, disregard all this for a second. This is where we started. So I didn't even end up using this third iron node, but got 2 miners set up, tons of conveyor belt splitters. These are all Mark III, highest miners you can get. So this is all iron production over here. Plates, these are just straight ingots going into things like iron rods and screws. Super tall bouncy boy is kind of stuck in the conveyor belts after this latest experimental patch, because this is where he normally spawns. So he spawned on a bunch of conveyor belts. Nice. Thank you, autosave. Thanks for killing my frame rate. So, like over here we have rotors being built, we got stators being built over here. This all gets piped into this assembler, which makes motors. Motors get piped into this gigantic storage array. It has motors, computers, and heavy modular frames. These are all building components, so you need these to make different things. Like, for example, like if I wanted to build the water extractor, right? So I need 10 rotors, 10 reinforced iron plates, and 20 copper sheets, and you place it on a water node. So the latest content added the blender and the particle accelerator, as well as the resource well pressurizer and the resource well extractors. These are super late game things that you really don't get into until like about 100 hours into the game or so. So we've got all of that running over here. Over here I have a manufacturer that is building those heavy encased frames that I mentioned. So this machine takes 4 different types of components and builds them into one item. For a while, the heavy modular frames were the end game construction material, and that has since changed with the latest update. I got things like AI limiters being built over here. This is also where my electromagnetic control rods are being built for my nuclear reactors. This is all copper production, so this goes into copper ingots. I usually just make copper sheets, but you also need wire to make cable. So I have all of that production going on over here. The one thing you'll notice is this game is conveyor belt city. There's just so many of them, and I built this before I really knew what I was doing, and I never went back and fixed any of it. What you're supposed to do is put down foundations, and then everything snaps onto the foundations fairly well, so you can make a very neat factory. You can there's walls and everything as well, foundation and wall blocks, so you can make actual like gates and things like that for vehicles to drive in and out of. Conveyor walls, things like that, so you can make things be multi-floor. It's the way to go, but I never got around to fixing this absolute mess of a server when I first started. So I think in here is just copper sheets. This is excess storage. There was a time when all 5 of these or 4 of these containers were completely full. So next we'll go over here. Take a little detour actually over to this section. These are all decommissioned coal factories for power. All of this requires a massive amount of power. So if let me find one of my power poles. Where are my power poles? I think there's one over here. Yep. I'm currently at max outputting over 7 gigawatts of power. But I'm only using up usually around, at peak, like 3.5. My max constant would be about 5,600 megawatts, or 5.6 gigawatts, which I have plenty of power budget for. So over here, we have some foundries. These are turning iron and coal into steel ingots. And then the steel ingots are being fed into these, mainly for, I believe all of these are steel pipes now. Yep, these are all steel pipes. I've pretty much phased steel beams out of assembly. I have one tiny little steel production over here as well that's making just steel beams, because I think there's like 2 recipes that I need it for. This was completely full at one point, and this was all backed up because I had so many steel pipes. But I have steel pipes. I have a splitter set up over here. I'll show you. This sends all of the overflow for the steel pipes into these containers. I also have steel beams, or steel pipes go to the bottom one, steel beams go into the top. And there's another thing over here. So one of the things they added to this game, I believe was in the first big update, were vehicles. Let me find my... So this is my truck station. I have a tractor that is auto-pathing. That's what these little arrows are in the ground. They're basically like just showing the route it takes. So this truck's on autopilot. It'll come over to my truck station here in a minute. Way over there, I've got a coal miner set up, and this truck is just transporting all of the coal. Sorry, that's really loud. It's transporting all of the coal from that. Whoa, autosave tanks the frame rate, by the way. So it's just pulling all of the coal out, and then it'll continue on its way. So that's it for steel. Steel was the biggest production in terms of like late game stuff, but it's since changed with more recent updates. So over here you'll see I have a lot more iron production set up. So these are all currently being made into screws. And I have all the screws being piped over into this manufacturer, which is creating computers. This was also late game production at one point. And then the computers go off into a couple of different spots. I also have over here another assembler or manufacturer that's building supercomputers, the AI limiters, high-speed connectors, and plastic. So there's one of those water extractors as well that I mentioned. So there's extra copper coming in from that direction, as well as Caterium ore, which is used to make quick wire. Quick wire you use to make some of the mid-game electronics, like the Mark II power poles. They can handle more connections at once. So I got a ton of this backed up because it takes like next to nothing to mine that. So over here is my plastic and fuel production area. So I've got a bunch of refiners over here. Some of these are turning polymer resin, which is like a... Let me get out of an area that's not super loud. Polymer resin is... And we'll go over here. It's basically a byproduct of creating fuel. You get some... I think it's water, and you get polymer resin, and you can convert polymer resin to rubber and to plastic. So I have... This one is just packaging fuel that it's already been made into... empty canisters, which I guess there's another building that does this now, but this is from a previous update, so it hasn't broken yet. These are just some extra fuel. I have some fuel power plants over here. There's one right here. And then, for example, I have... let me find it. This main pipeline that's coming off of the hill here is crude oil. Crude oil is being piped into these refineries. Some of these are just making straight plastic. And as a byproduct, they make the heavy oil residue liquid, which gets piped over into these fuel buffers, which then go through to this refinery, which converts it into normal fuel. And that goes to this generator, which burns it off for power. So I've got a ton of these scattered around everywhere, way off in the distance. I won't go all the way out there, but there's more refineries and oil pipes and everything out that way as well. So this is mainly just my fuel and plastic production, which you need plastic for a bunch of end-game stuff, as well as rubber. I also have a manufacturer over here that's making beacons, which you could place on the map, and these will show you where... like, you can just mark a spot on the map for these. So I have these being piped over for rifle bullet production. Rifle cartridges need beacons. So that's where those are going. So from there, might as well show this off real quick, because this is actually super neat. I'm very proud of this. So these are hyper tubes. I don't use these very often anymore now that I got the hover pack, which came in the latest update. This is basically just like you can set up these Futurama style tubes that allow you to zip around all over the map. You can... I should be making more of these because they're actually way faster than the hover pack, but yeah. So over here, as you'll see, Wow, that thing is very loud. That's a bug. I don't know. Whoa, that's freaky. I don't know where that came from, but that's kind of alright. Apparently it's a horror game now. So over here I have this giant floating train in the sky. This is pulling, so that station right there has a sulfur deposit right underneath it. There's a miner there with a bunch of vertical conveyor belts that are bringing it up to the train station that unloads to the train. And then on the other side, there is a quartz crystal and bauxite ore miner. If you look way over in that corner, that's over where the crystal is being mined, and then it's being piped over through conveyor belts up to the truck station or the train station, which is around there. And then further back a little to the left, like straight that way, is where the bauxite ore comes from. So this all gets looped over to this train station. I probably should have showed this off last, but this is going to be a long video because there's literally all of the content in the game, with a few exceptions, is done. The only things I haven't done are the final space elevator thing, which I'll show at the end. This has basically like how you would progress to the different tiers of technology. There's one final one they added in this update. I don't think it adds any content. I think it's just kind of like a cosmetic thing. So it comes to this train platform, which will output all of this, and it goes down. I'm not going to go down that tube, actually. That tube will fling me across the map, because that's what it's designed to do. Alright, so this will all come down off of this massive conveyor belt, down to this sorting system. So it goes from there down into this bottom splitter. The splitter will split it. I did not mean to pick up those leaves. The splitter will split it based on its material. Left will go to the raw quartz will go to the left, sulfur goes straight, and then bauxite goes to the right. And then these are all piped up, and these will split different ways. So the overflow, so once this conveyor belt to the right gets full of bauxite, it'll output the overflow through to the center, and it does the same thing for the crystal and the sulfur as well. So the overflow comes out of these conveyor belts, loops around, and goes into this machine here, which will basically just eat up any extra resources that you have and give you coupons, which you can spend at a cosmetic shop. They added, it's not really important stuff. I mean, there's some recipes you can only unlock through it, but it's not super important. Technically, you don't really have to use it if you don't want to. So I have these refineries here. These are breaking down sulfur with water to make sulfuric acid. I need that for uranium production. So that pipes out there and heads that way. We'll show that off in a minute. This is also for sulfur, but this is for something else. This over here is producing crystal oscillators, which goes over into this machine, which creates radio control units, which I need for an end game thing. And those are all being banked here. I'm currently, my goal right now, I'm banking a ton of raw materials so that I can make the final things I need for the space elevator. These are overflow or extra storage for all of these machines here. So basically, I'm not going to go through every single thing in this line, but the gist of it is the bauxite gets turned into a alumina solution in this little buffer here, and the crystals, the quartz, are getting turned into silica packets, and those are getting burnt together after this refinery takes petroleum coke, which is a byproduct from the oil, combines it with the alumina solution to make the aluminum scrap, and I get a little extra water back from it as well. So that's being all piped together. So the alumina scrap and the silica go in to make aluminum ingots, and then the aluminum ingots split off here into two spots. This one combines it with copper to make the all-clad aluminum sheets. These are needed for the final tier conveyor belts that you see that are going really fast. The other ones are going over for... Actually, no, I think it's just... Oh, no, never mind. The aluminum... The rest of the aluminum goes over to this manufacturer to make aluminum casings, which are used for a couple of different things. And then another thing they added to the game is the blender, which is this machine here. So this will combine 2 normal items and 2 liquid or gases into a complete item. So in this case, a cooling system, which is used for a couple of different recipes. Got a few of those banked up. So one of the things they added in this update was nitrogen gas. You need to use the stop flying. The resource well pressurizer to pressurize the node, and then the extractor on the minor nodes to actually pull it out. So this was added in the latest update. I have all of that set up, and that big pipe coming straight back over here is all nitrogen gas. It's also going over there for some other production. So this, at one time, this was the latest you could get. I don't think the cooling system, that stuff was added recently. I don't think that was an update for. So yeah, those definitely added an update for. The blender wasn't in the game yet. Which was really fun because I had to change a whole bunch of my production because they changed some recipes for stuff, which was, yeah, super helpful. So I guess we'll check out the nuclear reactors first because it'll make sense. It'll help make the rest of that stuff over to the left to make a whole lot more sense. So let me go over. So, by the way, the hover pack I'm using, it draws electricity wirelessly from these nodes. If I get too far away from the power poles, I'll run out of power, and I'll just start gliding to the ground. So we're going to take our car, Explorer, sorry. It's a little loud. So here we've got a few conveyor belts and pipes. These are coming over here. I had to split off the control rods because it's needed for a recipe over there. There. Should be a little easier on the ears now. So we got some limestone mining up there at that little machine there. That's pulling limestone off for creating concrete, which we need for a couple, well, actually quite a few recipes, and basically all the foundations in the game. I'm going to stop here and swap out to my hazmat suit because there's a lot of radiation over here. So in this cave, there's a uranium node, which I'm currently mining raw uranium, and that comes over here, combines with a couple of different things to make, let's see, it's not in there. Yeah, so encased uranium cells, which then combine with the industrial beams and the control rods to make uranium fuel rods, which go into the main nuclear reactor, which is this one here. So this burns 0.2 uranium fuel rods per minute and quite a bit of water. It produces 25 uranium waste, which are these little glowing barrels that come out here and go to these storage spots. And then they go into this machine, which isn't actually a machine. This is a drone port. So one of the things they added to the game in Update 4 is drones, which you can use to move massive quantities of material from one location to another. They're super useful. I haven't really had a chance to fully implement them other than this one instance, but soon I will. So the things coming out of it were plutonium fuel cells, which is what the production on the other side of that field over there was for. So we'll go over and check that out. So what's important is before Update 4, there was no real way to get rid of the nuclear waste. Technically, you could destroy it from your inventory back then. You could just take it in a barrel of it. You'd take a bunch of radiation from it. You have to have a hazmat suit with a lot of filters, but you could manually trash can everything and delete everything if you wanted to. It was super dangerous to do. Some players did it. I never amassed enough nuclear waste because I only had one reactor running at the time to have that be a problem. I need to throw that back on before I die. So there's another drone port over here. It's that one at the top of the hill. So that pipes all of the nuclear waste out and into these containers. So it's pulling both plutonium waste and normal uranium waste. So all of the normal uranium waste continues down this, and it splits off into a couple separate machines. All of the plutonium waste goes to the right and into those because there's no current way to utilize plutonium waste at this time. They haven't added anything for that yet. Also, I don't know what that is. I built that at one point. I'm not quite sure why. So I'm just have massive amounts of storage for the plutonium waste over there. I've got like 4 stacks of it so far, across like 7. I would say about 30 to 40 hours so far is what's over there in terms of waste. So over here we have a particle accelerator, which is a super unstable machine. It can draw anywhere between 250 and 750 megawatts of power through a production cycle, which is pretty gross. So it converts uranium waste and non-fissile uranium, which the non-fissile uranium, there's a blender over there that makes that out of the raw waste. Silica and sulfuric acid and on some other acid that I have to make. So that makes the plutonium pellets. The plutonium pellets, they go into one of the assemblers, mixed with concrete to make encased plutonium cells. Those go over into the... there's an assembler, or manufacturer, a 4-part manufacturer over here, which makes the actual plutonium fuel rods, which get sent back over to the drone port, and the drone takes them over to my nuclear reactors. So that is basically all of the content that's out and in the game. There's a couple of other things that are kind of niche. There is wildlife. I've killed off a majority of the hostile wildlife at this point. There's a gun. Wow, that's really loud. There's a gun that you can use to fight back with. There's also explosives, which are kind of fun. Oh, I am out of fuel. Let me refuel this real quick. So there's also explosives, which are useful for breaking rocks in caves, but they're not actually used for anything other than that. They're just kind of fun. They don't actually break any like buildings or anything. Let me throw that back on. So yeah, the final thing in the game that I haven't finished yet is over here, which is why I'm currently amassing all of these extra parts. Is in the space elevator, which is 1,000 nuclear pasta, which I need special frames for that, and copper dust, I think. The propulsion rockets, which need supercharger, turbo motor, cooling units, and the super new frames that I've been building. The field generators, which need battery, versatile framework, and electromagnetic, or the control rods, which I have a ton of production for that as well. And then finally the assembly director systems, which are supercomputers and another part that I haven't built yet. But once I deliver all of these, I can send this up, and apparently I'm going to get a reward from the Awesome Shop. So with the previous milestones, they unlock different tiers, which I'll show you over at my base of operations. So at the hub terminal, so these are the different tiers. The basic ones, they give you things like smelters and stuff like that. Then you get up to like tier 3, which is coal power. You get the vehicular transport, which is the tractor and the truck station, and then your basic steel production. And then it goes all the way up to tier 8, which gives you nuclear power. The advanced aluminum production, which you get the fused modular frame recipe for. This is super important. The hover pack, which I have. Leading edge production, which is a couple of other useful things, the Miner Mark III, and then finally you can unlock the recipes for the particle accelerator. So they've already teased some new buildings that they may be adding as part of the experimental build to deal with the plutonium waste. I don't know if they have decided to do that yet or not. That was a rumor a while back, but they might. I don't know for sure. Apparently, they also added and I don't know where it's located, what tier it's in, but there was supposedly a zip line backpack that I thought they were adding to the game, but it looks like it's not in here yet. So yeah, I'll real quick, we'll take the tube up. Take the other tube up, and I'll give you an aerial view of what this all looks like, because it's actually really cool if you look at it from above. I think actually, now that I think about the guy that's sitting up here, I think that was something that they added from the Awesome Shop. You could buy it as like a cosmetic item, and then you could place it down wherever you want. And I think that's where I ended up dropping him as an Easter egg. But that was months ago when I did that, so it was either me or it might have been another player on the server, because there was a few people that joined at a later time. That's also a scanner, so that if I press Z, there's an actual full map here where we can see everything in terms of all of my vehicles, drone ports, train stations, all of that stuff. This map is big, and I haven't... There's some parts like up here and far to the east that I haven't actually explored yet. So there's still a lot in terms of exploration that you can do. There's crashed ships that you can get hard drives out of, which unlock alternate recipes for stuff, which is super useful. I need to fully complete doing that at some point. But anyway, I'll leave you with this nice view. Let me hop down. Ow. So there it is from above. I didn't go into this. This is a fully automated item sorting system that's based off of update 3 is when I completed this. It's out of date now. There's still a ton more extra items, but I never hooked this up to the grid because there's just such a mass amount of items. I think if I expanded the storage by a lot, I could probably send all the overflow here, but that would be something for another day, because that's probably at least a 6-hour project to get that set up. There's all my pipes. Got some water extractors in that lake. There's another lake over there. Actually, you can see it from here. Some fuel production there, and then way off in the distance over on the other side of those cliffs is where all my oil comes from. Sulfur miner. And we'll jump down here, so you guys can see. Yeah, that's all of my extra production stuff. So yeah, I know this was kind of long, but yeah, 171 hours of Satisfactory. This is what you get.